Hi, everybody, and welcome to this freebie. I'm Kendra Weitzel, and I'm presenting this. This is the Ultimate Pattern Drafting Starter Kit. This is to teach you the number one skill that you need to draft your own pattern pieces accurately. And I want to just say in advance, I'm feeling a little bit sick today, so if my voice goes in and out and starts to squeak a little bit, that is why. Um, I've been a little bit sick this week and it just got a little bit worse today. So I apologize in advance, but we're going to get into this now and you're going to learn everything that you need to know to draft your own pattern pieces. So here we go. I'm Kendra. It is awesome to meet you. I'm so happy that you're here and you decided to click on this and grab it for yourself because this information is vitally important for drafting your own pattern pieces. So to get the most from this presentation, first, save this presentation if you can, download it, or just take notes from the slides and be prepared to start taking action as soon as the presentation is over. And also be prepared to enroll into Sewing Boss Accelerator when it's done because you're going to see how much you need the course after you complete this presentation. So I've been a seamstress for about 23 years, probably longer, and I've done anything from small projects, working with sewing by hand, to regular clothing, just clothes I wanted to have in my closet. I made them myself. I've done Renaissance fair costumes for quite a few years, and for about 15 years, I was making my own cosplays and attending anime conventions and just having the time of my life, just making my own costumes and getting to be the characters. If you've ever done that or you want to start doing that, that's awesome. This information is going to help you greatly in order to take that route. If you're just interested in making your own clothing, awesome. All of this information is going to help you make your own clothes, no matter what your goal is, whether that's costumes, regular clothes, cosplays, whatever the case may be, you will definitely benefit from this information. So probably like many of you, I started with commercial patterns made by Simplicity, Butterick, McCall's, and that's essentially how I got majority of my experience working with pattern pieces. I just got used to seeing the same basic pattern shapes over and over and over, and after a while became very predictable depending on what I was trying to make. It just came very naturally to me what pattern pieces I needed and the order in which they're supposed to go together. All that just came very naturally, and I just pretty much accelerated my stuff inside of my first 10 to 15 years of making my own clothes. So anyway, I got so used to seeing the same pattern pieces that I'm like, well, I could probably honestly try to figure this out myself. And it's probably not that hard because I already know what to look for. I'm already very familiar with pattern piece shapes, as I'm sure most of you are at that point that you're ready to stop using patterns and start drafting your own. I know exactly how you're feeling and I know exactly where you are. So the only thing that I struggled with was the fact that there are so many methods out there for completing this task, for transitioning from pattern pieces or from commercial patterns to drafting your own pattern pieces. But we will get into that later. Basically, I gained insight over using commercial patterns for probably over 10 years and eventually graduated to starting to draft my own pattern pieces using a very simple automated process. And I will be covering that a little bit in this presentation as well. So this number one skill, the secret ingredient that you need to start drafting your own pattern pieces correctly without any help from anybody else, this is visualization. Being able to visualize the shape of the pattern piece that you need in order to draft it with your own hands. This is the bread and butter of pattern drafting. This is literally all you need. If you can master this skill quickly enough, then you can pretty much draft any pattern piece you need correctly. It will fit you correctly, and you'll just be off and running. You'll be your own clothing designer. So what does this mean? Bread and butter of pattern drafting. Basically, visualization is the ability to look at a finished piece of clothing, whether that's a dress, a blouse, pair of pants, a skirt, the finished product, and basically look at that design and being able to visualize the pattern pieces, plural, that you need in order to produce it. So here's an example of visualization. The picture on the left, which is a puff cuff, which I just did a tutorial for this. Puff cuff is simply just a modified basic pattern, basic sleeve pattern piece. And you start off with the picture in the middle, the basic pattern piece sleeve. And from there, you're going to draft it or modify the original piece to create the pattern piece that you need in order to create the puff cuff. And if you've been doing this long enough, with the more practice you get, you're basically going to have instincts that you need to do this with that basic pattern piece sleeve. It'll just come to you. It'll be very quick. It'll come to you. But for now, here you go. If you're ever wondering how to make a puff cuff, this is how you would do it. You would start with the basic pattern piece sleeve, and then you would cut it this way, elongate the cuff of it, and then those are darts. You would create darts, and then you would pin them together so that the sleeve, the cuff of the sleeve, puffs out as such. So using that, what 3 steps do you need to achieve visualization? So here's what I do. You start with the design you want to achieve. You start with exactly that design, and you make sure that you know exactly what it is. Is it a skirt? Is it a dress? Is it a blouse? Because that does change the pattern piece. That does change the entire process, but you have to be very clear on what you are trying to make. Besides that, you need to know what basic pattern piece shapes you need. If you only need 1 or 2, fine, but you need to know that information. You need to know the basic pattern piece shape that you need to start with, because that is going to be modified to become the pattern piece you need to complete that original design. And then, of course, step 3, you're going to determine how that basic pattern piece shape needs to change to become the pattern piece you need to achieve your desired result. And essentially, you just complete this entire process every single time you need a pattern piece. You're going to go through steps 1 through 3 every single time. So step 1, you start with the design you want to make. And the pictures on the right are just super generic things that you can end up with. But you got to keep in mind, it has to be specific. You have to have a very clear mind, clear idea of what you want to make. Right down to the notions, that's the buttons, the color thread, interfacing, all of that has to be crystal clear in your brain before you move forward. And usually I just have fun with this part. I make a list in Pinterest of things that I want to make. And they can be a little harder, a little more advanced, but whatever you want to do, just have a clear idea of what you want to make. And it's important to have a very clear idea of how each design is going to fit you and be finalized right down to knowing the closure. And the closure includes the buttons, the zipper, really how you're going to finish it. You need to have all those details. And after you enroll in Sewing Boss Accelerator, you will be guided through tutorials and given the basic foundational concepts. That will allow you to design any variation or exactly the designs that you see here. So, essentially, pick any design that you want to make and wear. Don't just pick random things. Pick what you know you want to do. And if you've had designs in mind for a long time and you've been trying multiple methods in order to finish them the way that you like them, keep those designs in mind. If you weren't successful at making them before, you can still go back and make them using this method. And I promise you, it'll be so much easier. Little drink of water. So step 2, we're going to use the word deconstruct. And basically that means take any one of those very generic things, the dress, the shirt, the blazer, you're going to deconstruct it into individual pattern piece shapes. So for example, the blazer was a combination of the bodice, front and back, that first picture, probably not the skirt. You would also have a lapel, maybe a few pockets, All of those count as pattern blocks. And you would have sleeves, short or long, whatever you want. But you need to separate that first design into separated basic pattern piece shapes. And by the way, these are all the pattern blocks that you'll be drafting in Sewing Boss Accelerator. So at the end of this, if you decide to enroll, you will be able to make that blazer or that shirt or that skirt or that dress. You can make any one of those things in any variation you want. So step 3, how does the basic shape need to be drafted to be the pattern piece shape you need to complete your design? So an example, a sweetheart neckline. This is my favorite. They're really, really pretty, and they're very fun to create. So you would start with the front bodice, and this would be your front bodice pattern block. You would add your drafting lines, and before that, you would measure yourself, make sure that you like the levels, where those lines are going to go. You have to measure yourself so that you don't make it too high or too low, but that's a separate lesson. And then the yellow highlighted lines are the modified, or how you would change the basic pattern piece. That's the drafted pattern piece. And when you put this onto fabric correctly, this would be your completed fabric panel. So let's go forwards and draft a basic short sleeve using that same design. Now we're taking it apart from the sleeve. You would start with the basic piece, draft the pattern piece. And in this case, it's really easy. A short sleeve is very, very easy, very basic. You would need to add that one line, put it onto fabric, cut it out, and that is your completed fabric panel, all sewed up and attached to the shirt. So, recap. Visualization is the most important skill to have to draft your own pattern pieces from scratch. Read that again, read it over and over and over. It doesn't matter how many methods you've gone through. If they didn't work for you, if they didn't work for you, even after you tried multiple times, there is a very good reason for that. If you don't already have that instinct of how pattern pieces are supposed to look and how they're going to fall on you, even if you make a slight wrong turn and then you continue drafting your pattern piece with that wrong turn, you should instinctually know that it will fit you differently than what you planned. So every single one of those instincts needs to come into play when you're drafting your pattern pieces. It is the ability to visualize that basic pattern piece shape and how it needs to change to be the pattern piece you need to complete your design. And the reason that I give you these steps is literally because when you enroll in Sewing Boss Accelerator, you will be working from the basic pattern piece shapes every single time. There's a reason I'm giving you this method, because this is exactly what you will do when you enroll in Sewing Boss Accelerator. You will be using the basic pattern piece shapes, which are your pattern blocks, copying and drafting them to be your new pattern piece shapes, whatever those shapes need to be to complete your clothing designs. So using this automated strategy, you'll always start designing from a basic pattern piece shape, and using visualization, you'll determine what shape you need to draft to achieve your desired result, to complete your clothing. So right now, this button is available here to enroll in Sewing Boss Accelerator, because you will be taking immediately to the course, enroll, and you will start learning immediately. You will learn all the math and the technical stuff that is involved in it. It's a lot of technical stuff and math, but honestly, I'm not a big math person, but it's very, very simple. You just got to pay very, very close attention to the tutorials that are in the course. Watch them as many times as you want. Repeat them until you know that you have the right stuff, that you have followed the information, you know what you're doing. But once you enroll in Sewing Boss Accelerator, all that information, as complicated as it is yours forever. So that all you need to do is draft your pattern blocks, and you're off and running. As soon as you know how to measure yourself, and you know how to guarantee, and you know how to sew anything in the right order, you're off and running, and you're a seamstress. Like as quick as 30 days is how quickly your turnaround can be, how quickly you can achieve what you want to achieve, which is to draft your own pattern pieces and make your own clothes. So imagine this. You've now completed Sewing Boss Accelerator, and you're finally excited about making your own clothes because you actually know how to. Whatever failures you might have had in the past, all that trial and error, and the frustration of that, and not knowing exactly what you did wrong, but you can't exactly fix it, or maybe you've been trying multiple methods, but you've never really mastered any of them and you're still struggling for the best and the easiest method. Here it is. You know what you did wrong and you know what to do correctly now. And you're going to move so much faster through the process. And you're going to have so many more successes. You're going to have so many more finished clothes that you've always wanted to have. You aren't hesitant anymore when you're starting new projects. There's no hesitation. There's no confusion. There's no, you can spend a lot of time just to be sure researching how the pattern pieces need to be shaped. You can Google that stuff. I've done that before, and it's actually very, very helpful. And that's how I finished a lot of other things this year, because I just Googled things. And essentially, you just figure out the measuring and the drafting yourself because you took Sewing Boss Accelerator. You know exactly how to start and finish any new clothing design you choose, and you are able to make your clothes even faster than before. And that's the other point of using this method. It is going to cut your project time significantly. It no longer scares you to draft pattern pieces you've never drafted before because you know how to measure yourself and apply your draft lines. And not only that, already you have an entire line of clothes that are already done and ready to wear, because you use this system and you already did the hard work, and now you get to enjoy all of the creative freedom. That is entirely possible within just a few days of enrolling in Sewing Boss Accelerator. So what are your next steps? Well, first of all, let's get going and get you enrolled in Sewing Boss Accelerator. Now that you know the most important skill in pattern drafting, all it takes is a little bit of practice and you'll be set for so long, and you'll just keep accelerating. As soon as you get the hang of it, you just keep going and it just gets easier and faster. And with this method as well, the trial and error is significantly reduced. Significantly. So next, you're going to learn the automated pattern drafting process from start to finish that has helped hundreds of seamstresses. And that automated pattern drafting process is drafting your pattern pieces from a pattern block, from all the pattern blocks that you could possibly make if you enroll in Sewing Boss Accelerator. This course also teaches you how to choose your own fabrics, materials, closures, and notions, and that is something else that you have been guided through using commercial patterns. So now that we're giving up commercial patterns, you will be giving a full education of how to choose all those materials, the best ones possible for any design. You'll be taken through that and guided through that so that there's no confusion or hesitation, and you'll know exactly what to buy when you're in a clothing store, when you're in a fabric store. Also, when you enroll in Sewing Boss Accelerator, you will also have an opportunity to check out and enroll in Order of Sewing Operations. And this is the course that teaches you the fastest route to sewing any project that you can think of, and that will cut your project time in half. You, for example, won't have to go back and redo a stitch because something isn't fitting correctly, because you will also be taught how to make sure your products, your fabric panels fit you correctly before you even start sewing them together. So right now is the time to enroll in Sewing Boss Accelerator. The button is right below this presentation, and really anywhere on this page. Just click any button and you'll be taken to the course immediately. I'm Kendra Weitzel, and I really hope that this information has helped you and you know exactly what your next steps are and what you're ready to do. I think that you are completely and totally ready to take Sewing Boss Accelerator, and you will be so happy that you did. So that's it, guys. Thanks for clicking on this, and thanks for being here. I hope this information helped, and I hope I see you inside Sewing Boss Accelerator. See you later.